Okay, update on where we're at with the diesel conversion on the snowblower. Last time I think we were running it, I didn't have the belts hooked up or the pulleys on all the way. I don't remember exactly where I left off, but wasn't able to drive it or operate it. But now it's operable. Got the guard on, not that pretty, not as pretty as I'd like it to be. Ended up just splitting it in half and then spreading it apart using some 1" by 16th inch steel flat stock, and then wrapped it in some fiberglass screen material, and then put some RTV silicone and filled it in, and that's what I got. So not pretty, but saves the fingers and hands if you reach them in there. The same issue with the chute. I had to raise that about 4 inches. Ended up using just some stove pipe, split it in half. I got a piece on the inside and the out of the inside. It's kind of hard to see, and I just riveted it all together. It gave me the clearance. Well, there's not much clearance. In fact, it still rubs a little bit between the guard and the chute flange, I guess. But anyway, it looks like it'll work. Did get to throw some snow with it. Works pretty good. Still got the high RPM issue. Got the battery mounted a little bit better. Charging adapter on it. What else did we do? I put a if this ends up working out, it will be kind of nice, a fuel gauge like the snowmobile kind. And that's all it is. I think it's off a John Deere tractor. I had to shorten it 2 inches, and the threads don't match the tank, but I put a gasket in there, and it seems to be holding fuel for now. I think there's an air vent on the very top, so that should take care of that. But hopefully that'll work. The other option is putting a clear piece of tubing on the side like some tractors have, and just would help to know how much fuel you have in operation instead of having to pull the strainer out and check in there. What else? Added the oil pressure switch, and then the throttle cable. I still got to kind of clean up the wiring here and tie it down a little bit. Added an hour meter, start switch, and tags, oil light. Just goes out when the oil pressure's up. I opted for that rather than the gauge. Just seemed like it was a little bit quicker. Also added heat setting, which I'll talk about in a second. Throttle control, just a regular lawnmower throttle cable going to the speed control. On the hour meter, what I ended up doing, I don't know if you can see it or not, but I got a diode in there. If you put a diode downstream of the hour meter, that way the hour meter will only run when the engine's running, which works in theory. In practice, I found out that the engine has to be turning around, I'm guessing 1500 or 1800 RPM before that will actually start clicking over. The generator alternator that's on this engine doesn't produce a lot of voltage at low RPM, so anyway, that helps. So it just won't count hours when it's at a low idle, which it shouldn't be doing a whole lot anyway, but that's better than having it rack up while the key is on and the engine is actually not running. What else do we do here? I put one of these, I think it's a max fuse. It's a 60 amp fuse just to protect the switch. What I plan on doing here is running a intake heater, hence that's why the sock is in there now on the intake, but want to run that preheater off the switch, and I just want to protect the circuit in case there is a short somewhere. So there's a 60 amp fuse in there, running up to the switch. I'm not sure if the switch is going to be good enough. I need 50 amps to go to to the heater, and I might have to put a relay in, but I'm going to try the switch first. I got a couple spares in case I burn it up. But anyway, getting close to being done. The only thing I need to add yet is the I'm going to put a digital volt and amp meter on it, just so when you go to preheat this thing, if it you can see it pulling some amps and you know it's working. Typically they have a glow plug indicator, but I can't seem to find one that size correctly. Plus a glow element tends to pull some more power from you too a little bit and add some resistance to the circuit, which hopefully the meter won't do. The meter's not here yet, so I'll get that installed later. So anyway, what brings us to the next point here is this is a heating grid off of a 5.9 liter Cummins engine. Supposedly, I'd never actually seen one before I got to look. In this engine being a Yanmar clone, supposedly they make a grid heater for it, for the Yanmar, but I can't seem to find one anywhere, so I had to come up with my own. Found this one on eBay. I think it was $67 shipped, a little bit more than I wanted to pay for it, but other ones were running 125, 130. It's I believe it to be 12 volt. I'm not sure if the Cummins are 24 or 12. I think they're 12, but anyway, this one will work pretty good because it's at 12 volts, or well, 10 to 12 volts. It pulls about 50 amps, which would be about 500 watts of heat it should be pouring in there. So the problem was, I guess, to be able to adapt it, so I had a buddy of mine machine these adapter plates, and I'll kind of show you how those go together here in a second. But the idea is put it right on as it goes into the intake. This first piece here, I didn't want to tear this apart any more than I have already. But those two bolts that go through, I don't know, but I think that they have flanges on them that's between the intake manifold and the head, and I didn't want to take that apart and bust a gasket and to replace them, so I just left them in there. And then this piece, let's see if I can get it to fit on here without causing problems. But that's going to sit in there like that, and then the two nuts will go on. Then I'll put a bolt in the top, and then the Cummins heater element will go on top of that. Kind of something like this, and it'll be in this direction, but I'm throw it on here like this, and then of course the adapter that goes onto the filter. So one problem I created for myself is now I don't have a lot of room between by the time the filter's on, I won't have a lot of room between there and the handles of the snowblower. There'll be room, but only about a ½ inch or so, and I'll have to take the handles actually off to access the air filter once it's all together. So anyway, that's where we're at. I'm going to go ahead and put this together. Got the gaskets, put some silicone on them, and just letting them kind of set up a little bit, but I'll put all the gaskets on here and put it together hopefully tonight. Let it sit overnight, and then tomorrow I'll shoot a couple more videos, one starting it cold without the heater, and then one with it, just for a comparison to see how good it works. Let's see, yeah, that should be a good enough here. Again, about 500 watts. What they sent here when I bought the engine is this glow plug. Then I ended up just cutting it off just to plug the hole pretty much, because it's kind of useless. It's only 60 watts. I think it's, I don't know, it's like 2.5 ohms or something like that. So it pulls about 12 divided by 6.5. Let's see, V equals IR, volts equals amps times resistance. Resistance I think is 2.5. So it's like 5 amps. 5 times 12 volts your power, 60 watts. So it's just not enough to heat up anything in any reasonable amount of time. So what I plan on doing is, the way I'm going to wire this is we'll have a heat position on the switch, and then also when you go to start it, that'll also supply power to the heating element too, which is typically what is done, I guess, on most preheaters. So hopefully I got enough battery power. I measured the amps on the starter. It's about 100 amps to turn it over. That with the heater will be 150 amps. Battery is supposedly rated for 275 cold cranking amps, so there should be enough left over. I just don't know how long I'll be able to run the heater beforehand and crank it and get it to start, but hopefully it'll be good enough. The generator on here, this engine was made for actually a generator application, I guess, because the alternator that comes on inside the engine really isn't very substantial. It only puts out like 3 amps according to the manual. I'd never measured it. But in a generator application, that's fine when it's running for hours and hours, but in this application it's not really the greatest because 3 amps, if you run this thing for an hour or so, that isn't a whole lot of charge. So I just put a battery charger with an adapter with the charger here, so I'll have to plug it in, get it charged up after I use it just to make sure it's ready to go next time. So that's kind of where we're at. I'll shoot some more videos. Hopefully before the year's over I'll be able to get a video in of actually throwing some snow with this thing if we happen to get any. But we're getting towards the end of the season, so I might have to wait till next year. So that's where we're at, and look forward to the next video.